In this lesson, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the brush tool. Now, this is a very important tool because it is completely integrated in most of the other tools inside of Photoshop. So for this lesson, I'm going to create a brand new document. Let's just go in here and open up our default. And the background, I'm going to set this to white. All right, just so as we paint, it's a little bit easier to see what we're working with. Alright, so with the paintbrush selected, or B, you hold down B and it will activate the brush for you. You have a couple of options at the top that we should talk about. Now this is one of those tools that's kind of integrated in a number of different areas. First place it's integrated are these colors. Okay. Next, it's integrated with these swatches and these colors right here. Okay. And it's also integrated with this palette right here, which is the brushes palette. You can access it from here, or you can access it from right up here, and that will both open up this palette. And now this palette has a number of different things that you can do, and we're going to have another video set aside just for the brushes palette. Okay, so first of all, let's just talk about some of the options that you have available up here. If you use this to dial in your brushes, a trick that I can give you or tell you about is if you open up this option here, you can choose different types of views. So maybe you want a list, maybe you want just a thumbnail. I prefer a small thumbnail just so I can see very quickly what kind of brush I'm working with. So if I want to pick this 19, I can just look right here and know what I'm going to get. Now you have the master diameter, which is the size of the brush. So as you can see, as I move this back and forth, I get a different type of brush. You also have a hardness. So if I take this all the way down and I paint, and I take this all the way up and I paint, I get two different looks. Okay? One has a very soft edge or feathered edge, and the other one has a very sharp, crisp edge that's not feathered at all. Okay? And you can have anywhere in between there. So if you want just something that has a very soft edge, just like that, you have that ability. Next to that is your blend mode. Now, we haven't talked about modes yet, and we'll do that when we get into layers, but just to know that you can have any one of the blend modes available to you as a brush. So as I'm painting, I can paint out just the color or just the saturation information. Opacity is just what it says. If I dial this down, and the way you can dial it without actually using the slider is if you click on the word and drag, you'll get these little double arrows. So we'll just drag this down, and you notice I go from gray. Let me just get that a little bit. As you can see here, as I paint over and over and over, I'm going to keep adding 10% at a time. Or you can go all the way to 100 and just get black. Now, flow is connected to this button right here. So if I have a standard set of flow right there of 100, if I drop this down, okay, you'll notice that as I hold still, it's going to keep dropping ink. Okay, so I get these little globs of ink. Now it's a little bit easier to see if I pick a different color, so let's just pick a different color here. And you can see here as I get almost like it's a spray can. Okay, and that's the airbrush tool right here. If I turn this off, I don't get that. I only get whatever flow my setting was set to. Alright, let's go ahead and fill this entire layer with white. And the easiest way to do that is we're going to just come up here to Edit, Fill, and we're going to fill with the background color. Now, the shortcut, let me show you that, is Control Backspace or Control Delete if you're on the Mac, or Command Delete. Okay, so if I want to fill this with white, which is the background color, Control Backspace. If I want to fill this with red, it's Alt Backspace, which is this key right here. Okay, Alt Backspace will do the foreground. Control Backspace do the background. All right, very useful. Now, let's talk about some of the other shortcuts available to you when using your brush. I've already explained one of those, which was the open bracket. Notice I get a bigger brush. I'm sorry, your closed bracket. Your open bracket gives you a tighter brush. Okay, let's go ahead and erase those. Now, if I hold down Shift and I adjust my open bracket, I get a harder brush. Okay. If I use my open bracket, Shift open bracket, I get a softer brush. Okay, so you can see the difference here between this brush and this brush stroke. Now, sometimes you're going to find that you want to pick your brushes very quickly without having to go up to the top. Well, you can access these with a right click. So if you right click anywhere in your scene here with your brush selected, you can pick a brush and you can pick different ones and make it very easy for you. Okay? So those are just some different shortcuts available to you when you're dealing with your brush. Now let's very quickly talk about the pencil tool. The pencil tool, similar to the brush, okay? However, there's no feathering of the edge. So depending on what type of artwork you're working on and your ultimate goal, you'll find that as you're painting with this, you're not going to get any soft edges along here. Now, what if you want a better edge or a better line? Notice that stamping space. Okay, so as I click and drag, you see how these little divots. That's controlled by the, let's open up the brush palette here. And if we go to the brush tip shape, right here where it says spacing, if I crank that down, you notice now I get a smooth line. Okay, so we're going to talk about this palette in the next lesson. I'm going to walk you through all the different cool things that you can do here. All right, and then I'll show you how you can start saving your own brushes.